Okay, so here's going to be an example of using the difference quotient to find the average rate of change on these particular intervals for this particular function. So remember, the difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. So we're going to have to figure out what f of x plus h is for this function. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go f of x plus h is equal to 6 times x plus h, right? Because we're just going to plug in x plus h right there, minus 5 times x plus h quantity squared. So we have to simplify this out. So what does it turn into? What do we have? 6x plus 6h minus 5 times this squared. So that's x plus h times x plus h. So we're going to have to expand that. So we've got 6x plus 6, oops, that's 6x plus 6h. There's an h right there. And then minus 5 times, and then this is going to be x squared plus xh plus hx plus h squared, right? We just distribute the x through and then distribute the h through. We get this. So we're going to have to clean that up a little bit. So what do we have now? 6x plus 6h minus 5x squared, and that's 2xh times 5, so that's minus 10xh, and then minus 5h squared. All right, so now this ugliness right here is just what's going to replace this f of x plus h, right? Because that's what it's equal to. And then this f of x is just the 6x minus 5x squared. So we can go ahead now and just plug everything in where it goes. So I've got f of x plus h, which is all of this. So now I've got this guy right here, and I'm just going to plug him in here. I've got this guy, I'm going to plug him in there. So what do I have? I've got 6x plus 6, oh, I did it again. There's an h right there, right? That's a 6h, distributing that to there, 6h, there we go. All right, so I've got a 6x plus 6h minus 5x squared minus 10xh minus 5h squared, that's this part, minus f of x, which is 6x minus 5x squared, all divided by h. So that's now what this is equal to. All right, well, that's ugly, so we're going to have to clean it up a little bit because we can see like that's a minus 6x and that's a plus 6x, so those are going to cancel out. So let's just distribute this through, right? So this negative, we can just distribute that in. This negative makes this negative, negative of a negative, that makes that positive. And so now I've simplified that. And now we group up like terms, so 6x minus 6x minus 5x squared plus 5x squared. So what do we have left now? We've got 6h minus 10xh minus 5h squared. All the x's have canceled out. This is all divided by h. So now this h can simplify there, right? So you just want to think about it as if it was a 6h over h minus 10xh over h minus 5h squared over h. That just makes your life a little bit easier for simplifying this so you don't forget anything. So now what do I have? I've got 6, right, because the h's cancel, minus 10x, and then minus 5h. Okay, so what do I have now? Well, this is the difference quotient, right? So this is the average rate of change formula that I can now use on these given intervals. So if I call this my x value, and I want to do the slope between x equals 2 and x equals 3, well then I'm just going to go, well, my x value is 2, but to go from 2 to 3, that means I have to change by 1 extra point. Remember, the h value is how much you're going to change your x by. So that means h equals 1. So when I plug that in here, I get, so for the average rate of change on the interval from 2 to 3, that's going to be 6 minus 10 times 2 minus 5h, and h was 1. So what do I get? I get 6 minus 20 minus 5, which is, negative 25 plus 6, which is negative 19. All right, well, what if I were to do that again up here? for like from 2 to 2.5. All right, so I have to write down the difference quotient formula again. My average rate of change, what was that equal to? That was 6 minus 10x minus 5h. So that's 6 minus 10x minus 5h. So now I'm going to do this on the interval from 2 to 2.5, right? So that means my x value is 2 and my h value is a half, because that's just the difference between these two, right? So h is equal to 0.5, and now I can just plug those values in. So on this interval, I get 6 minus 10 times 2 minus 5 times 0.5. So that's 6 minus 20 minus 2.5. So that's what? Negative 22.5 plus 6. So that's negative 16.5. And then we're going to do it again. So now I'm going to do that same formula there on the interval from 2 to 2.1. So that's going to be 6 minus 10 times 2 minus 5 times, and then the difference there is 0.1. So I get 6 minus 20 minus a half. So that's what? Negative 20 and a half plus 6, which is 14.5. And then we do it again for the last one. So I'm going to go from 2 to 2.01. So again, we just plug it in to the formula, right? So I've got 6 minus 10 times 2 minus 5 times 0.01. So this is going to be 6 minus 20 minus 0.05. So this is what? Negative 20.05 plus 6, which is negative 14.05. So I hope that helped. There you go.